take a look at the destination selection options in a little bit more detail. When we go to destination, we have these different options over here. And the default one can change depending on what window you're in. But let's talk about them in order. The restore entire disk volume, its goal is to make the destination drive 100% identical to the source snapshot. If there's items on the hard drive that should not be on there, Retrospect will delete those items. If there's items on the drive that are identical to what exists on the backup, Retrospect won't bother restoring them again because they're already on the drive. And then if there's files that are missing, Retrospect will fill in the gaps and add those missing items. The replace corresponding restores the data back to where they came from originally, and it looks for files that are different and replaces them. What's a little bit different about this option is that when you do a replace corresponding restore, if there's an item on the hard drive that is unique, meaning that it does not exist in the backup set, Retrospect will not delete that file. It will leave it on the hard drive. So when we talked about the first option, if I had an item on my hard drive that was not part of my backup, Retrospect would have deleted it because that's the goal of restore entire disk, to make them 100% identical. When I use replace corresponding files, because I might have, let's say, a new Word document on the hard drive that was created after my backup was actually created, Retrospect will ignore that item because it has a unique name and it's probably in a unique path. And so Retrospect leaves that alone during the actual restore process, filling in any other stuff that might be missing. Now, if you have a newer version of a specific file on the disk, meaning that you have a Word document that you backed up on Monday, and then you modified it on Tuesday, when you go to do a restore on Wednesday, Retrospect will actually replace the newer version of the file with the older version on the backup. So if it sees an item with the same name and the same path, if the actual modified data of that file is different, Retrospect is going to do a restore of that file and replace it. Retrospect does not care if the version on the hard drive is newer or older, just that it's different, and it's going to replace that older version, or newer version for that matter. Now, we also have this other option that says replace if backup is newer, which means that if the file on the backup has a newer modified date than an identical file on the hard drive, then we're going to replace that newer version, or replace the older version on the hard drive with the newer version that exists on the backup. That way, when the restore is done, your hard drive contains the most recent versions of all of the data from the drive, or from your snapshot. Now, one of the things you'll find is that if the hard drive itself contains the newest version, it's not going to get replaced because the one on the backup is older than what you had. Now, restore missing files only makes an assumption that you've deleted a bunch of data off your hard drive by mistake, and you want to fill in those missing pieces. No other files are going to be replaced in that restore process, just the gaps filled in throughout the restore. The retrieve files and folders we saw earlier, which creates a new folder with the same name as the backup set, and then restores the data to that new folder, replacing nothing. The retrieve just files option also creates a folder with the same name as the backup set and restores all of the files but no subfolders, just giving you a flat directory structure. If we go ahead and close this window, we can go ahead and we can look at the actual backup options, or the restore options, excuse me. When we go to restore, we can go down here to more choices, and we have the ability to specify whether we want to restore the registry or not restore the registry. Depending on which restore option we chose earlier, the registry restore options are going to be on or off. So if we go and back up or back out a couple of ways so you can see what we have, we're going to go to restore, and we're going to back to advanced mode, and we're going to use the top restore option of restore files and folders. And if we go to the options of the restore files and folders, you'll notice that registry restores off by default, and it will not restore your registry. Now, if we cancel out of this and return to restore, and we use the bottom restore option of restore an entire disk, the options are different. The options actually have the registry restore on by default. So it's something to keep in mind when you're doing a restore. Do I need to restore my registry, or do I just need to restore specific files and folders without doing a registry restore? Typically, when you're doing an everyday restore and you're worried about safety or you don't want to make a mistake by accident, you want to go ahead and choose restore, and you can either use the wizards, which I'll let you explore on your own, or you can switch to advanced mode and use this top restore option. The restore files and folders is going to be the safest method. The defaults restore the data to a new folder on the hard drive, and they do not replace anything on your disk with the default options. And the registry also will not be restored by mistake.